Home to one of the oldest historical civilizations, Egypt has more than a few secrets veiled in its land and water. In this video, we expose them all. The day we got obsessed with Egyptian mysteries was the day we first wiped away sand from its first discovered artifact. The obsession was for a very good reason. Its mysteries do not end. Even after all the movies and documentaries, there's a huge amount of knowledge about Egypt that is yet to be gained. Come with us on a journey through Egypt and see through one of the most complex sites on Earth in the latest episode of Explained: Mysteries of Ancient Egypt. Number 1. The Lost Labyrinth. Labyrinth is a structure or a building that is very complex. We are talking booby traps, secret passages, the whole works, and of course, Egypt contains a lot of these. But the most interesting one is actually lost. We only know of its existence because some folks 2,500 years ago who wrote about how magnificent it truly was. They described it as a structure larger than pyramids and that it contained 3,000 rooms, all connected so weirdly that if one was to go alone in there, only a skeleton would be found. Even more than 25,000 years later. Now, to make matters even more unique, in 2008, some people discovered a structure underground that is similar to the description of the Lost Labyrinth by the writer. As of today, no one has dared evacuate the site. Number 2. We still don't know who killed King Tutankhamun. Even though we took a lot of history lessons in high school, the only pharaoh we seem to remember was King Tut. Perhaps this is because his life was a tragic juxtaposition. He became a king of an empire at a really young age, around the age of 10, but his life really sucked, health-wise. You may have figured out why we don't know what killed King Tut. It was because there were so many possibilities. Let us list some of the possibilities. 1. He was deformed to the point that scientists thought there was no way his parents were not related very closely. His deformity made it impossible for him to stand without someone propping him up, which already dismisses the second theory, which was that he died in a chariot riding accident. This was a theory formed because his knee was broken at the time of his death and his skull was fractured. This could mean that he was murdered, but again, we just don't know. Number 3. A mummy was found wrapped up in book pages. All of us are familiar with the Egyptian tradition of wrapping dead bodies in gauze to preserve them. While any mummy being found is an important discovery, and the reason mummies are so rare is because so many were stolen or destroyed. Now, this particular mummy baffled the hair off Egyptologists. The story starts with a man's journey to Alexandria. The Croatian official entered a bookshop and bought a sarcophagus, which is basically a stone coffin, and it had a mummy inside. Well, for years, he did not realize the mystery within the sarcophagus and displayed the mummy in a glass case in his home. After his death, his brother inherited the mummy, which he donated to a state institute. When the artifact arrived, a scientist noticed some writings on the mummy's linen. They assumed the writing was hieroglyphics, which was the ancient picturesque language of Egyptians. It wasn't until 10 years later that a German Egyptologist noticed that it was another language altogether. So, a theory formed that it might have been Arabic translation of the Book of the Dead. The mummy was sent to an expert who identified the language as more or less ancient Italian, called Etruscan. This empire was one of the oldest, dating from the 8th century BC to the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC, so it comes across as no surprise that many of their books have been lost, and experts have not been able to translate the writing adequately to date. We only know that these pages contain religious dates and names of the deities they believed in. Today, going from Italy to Egypt might be a hop, skip, and a swim away, but back then, not so much. Traveling 2,500 kilometers would have taken months and years to cross. So, how did a dead gal end up wrapped in pages from a book that should have never been in Egypt in the first place? One possibility might be that the woman was a noble and escaped the Romans when they attacked Italy by fleeing Egypt. Here she would have bit the dust and was wrapped up in pages from a religious book, as per their tradition. On the bright side, she didn't have to surrender to the Romans. There's just one problem with this theory, and it's a big one. The body was buried with a papyrus scroll, and these were basically identification papers stating that the woman's name was Nessie and that she was an Egyptian. Interesting facts. When people don't know the answer to a question, they say it would have been a coincidence. And that's exactly what we're saying right now. The mystery remains unsolved, but we did find the longest Etruscan script to date. Number 4. The disappearance of Queen Nefertiti. Queen Nefertiti was possibly more powerful than Cleopatra, and yet little is known about her beyond a sculpture and some mentions of her in scripts dating back to her husband's rule. We know she was a pharaoh in her own right. She was the mother of the previously mentioned King Tut, and that she inspired Beyoncé's Coachella outfit. We still don't know what happened to her beyond her husband's death. But whatever it was enough to erase her from future Egyptian texts. On the bright side, she got to be one of the few people Beyoncé has dressed like. Do you think these mysteries will be solved in one day? Or are we fooling ourselves by getting an Egyptology degree? Comment down below and we will pin the best one. And do not forget, we are holding a very exciting competition. To take part in it, simply comment below a topic of your choice. And if you are the winner we pick on Sunday, a video about that very topic will be uploaded within 15 days. Comment now, folks. Please like this video and share it with every history nut you know, and watch them cry when we call Etruscan ancient Italian. Subscribe to our channel for way more ancient history of great civilizations and their culture. We will catch you on the next episode of Explained. Make sure you tune in.